environmental pollution and degradation, and EIA, environment impact assessment. So in detail we are going to learn here about this. Sources of CO2, not burning the fuel in directly air. Now air is having all types of gases including oxygen and nitrogen majorly. Okay, at present urea is the leading consumer of natural gas in the country. Existing industrial hubs के साथ integrate करना, उसको hub and cluster model बोला गया है. We have added some important points from that PDF in our booklet. So today's topic is environment related, carbon capture, utilization and storage. This is the pending area that we can expect question in mains examination now, right, from environment section. So in environment section in mains examination only 3 syllabus topics are there, right? What are those? Conservation, environmental pollution and degradation, and EIA, environment impact assessment, right? तो ये कौन से syllabus से topic से आएगा ये? Environment pollution and degradation. Okay, so whatever the global warming, climate change and its impact and the measures to mitigate what you can say climate change and adapt to the climate change. So carbon capture, utilization and storage, few years back it was a idea that was thought like it will be a revolutionary idea if it is implemented to deal with the climate change. And now the day has come and we can say that we have commercially proven some of these technologies around the world, and in India also the government is taking several measures. We'll talk about those measures also in the end. So this carbon capture, utilization and storage is, we can say, one of the promising measure to deal or solution to deal with the climate change that we are facing. We'll see the context, why it was in news recently. Very good article appeared in Indian Express. ठीक है, हमने टक्कर के जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं हमारे या बाकी स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनमें ग्रुप में एक लिंक शेयर किया था. इफ यू रिमेंबर, देयर इज वन क्लाइमेट सीरीज ऑफ लेक्चर्स बाय इंडियन एक्सप्रेस. Okay, now by this date I guess they have covered 6 or 7 such let's say articles, very good research, well researched articles related to climate change. Okay, so you should go through them, all of them, because you will find some relevant let's say content for your mains examination. Now we are talking about the carbon capture. So it is basically or essentially CO2 emissions, because it is we can say major culprit for global warming and resultant climate change. So we will talk about first sources of CO2, both natural and anthropogenic. Thereafter we will talk about, we can say that we will not go in details of what is global warming and its impact. That is a separate subject. In past also we have dealt with let's say several such EDs talking about the global warming. So we'll focus specifically on this we can say technical topic, okay, because we are going to deal with carbon capture technologies. What are all these technologies, how they work, in which particular industries they are more preferred, all these things we are going to learn. What are the challenges in implementation of these technologies, right? So sources of CO2 first we'll talk about, then we can talk about the types of CO2 capture, technologies, especially those which are commercially proven technologies. We will look into them. Thereafter we will see what are the advantages or benefits of CCUS, right? And here itself we will talk about we can say uses or utilization. Okay, once it is captured it will be utilized for different purpose of captured CO2. So AC ऑन कर देना, ऑन है AC या तो पंखा ऑन कर दो, ठीक है. यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ कैप्चर्ड CO2. Thereafter we'll talk about the challenges involved. Okay, challenges involved and what is status in India, India's preparedness. So how government of India is dealing with this situation or this particular area. ठीक है, तो we'll talk about this topic also. ठीक है, okay, and thereafter we will see some potential, let's say, areas where we can have such carbon capture and utilization and way forward. ठीक है, so first of all the context why it was in news. Recently Germany has allowed some of its industries to capture CO2 and store it offshore locations. At offshore locations, that means into the deep sea oceans or ocean beds we can say. Offshore मतलब क्या है कि ocean के अंदर जो formations है, be it basaltic formations or deep beds, ocean deep beds are there, so वहाँ पर ये store करने के लिए उन्होंने allow किया है. Because Germany has committed under the Paris Agreement that it will go a net zero, or it will achieve the net zero emissions by 2045. ठीक है, it will achieve the net zero emissions by 2045, and for that purpose it is taking certain measures. That's why it was in news. Okay, so in detail we are going to learn here about this sources of CO2. If you see natural sources and anthropogenic sources, that is man-made, or we can say having some origin in human activities. ठीक है, तो ह्यूमन एक्टिविटीज में क्या ओरिजिन है? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल नेचुरल वन, वी नो दैट CO2 is a part of carbon cycle that we learn in environment section, biogeochemical cycles, and that carbon cycle involves several processes. Already UPSC has asked question 2 years back in mains examination about carbon cycle. ठीक है, बेसिक क्वेश्चन था वो. So what are all these processes? Like for example decomposition. All the organic mass is decomposed by the decomposers. The dead matter, dead leaves or litter, or we can say that whatever the excreta or dead animals, they are decomposed by the decomposers, microorganisms, and they release CO2 in that process. We know about this. Second is respiration. Now all animals, they inhale oxygen and exhale CO2. They inhale oxygen and they exhale CO2. So through that respiration process also CO2 is getting added into the atmosphere. Then third is, we can say some of the natural combustion processes are also there. Like for example forest fires, or even we can say that the volcanic eruptions. So they are also having combustion, no? So basically it is releasing CO2 into the atmosphere, which is a natural process. But what about the anthropogenic? The major one is burning of fossil fuels. Burning of fossil fuels, especially where power production, power sector हम बोल सकते हैं, electricity production, and second we can say that vehicles, and third we can say that industries. ऐसे बोल सकते हैं ना. In these let's say applications or areas, sectors, all this, let's say CO2 emission is happening. Then what are the other activities that we have? Human induced activities, like we can say deforestation. ठीक है, deforestation, how it is leading to CO2 emission? Because the forests are the carbon sinks, Forests are the carbon sinks. They are basically storing the carbon that is taken up from the atmosphere. Through photosynthesis process, that carbon is trapped into the organic masses. ठीक है, organic matter जिसको हम बोलते हैं. Now that is being released into the atmosphere through deforestation, or even we see that in a slash and burn kind of agriculture, the forests are burned. Even the forest fires are human induced forest fires. तो उसकी वजह से क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पर? There is increase in CO2 in the atmosphere. Okay, so major one is burning of fossil fuels in industrial sector, vehicular emissions and power production. This is the major culprit we can say for CO2 emissions, है ना? तो present global warming that we are witnessing is because of this factor, and somehow we can say this is also contributing. These are not as such let's say contributing to global warming that we are witnessing, क्योंकि ये तो होते आ रहे हैं ना, natural है. So fine, now we have understood the sources of CO2, and largely these carbon capture technologies which are industrially proven, they will work in these sectors, ठीक है, to capture the CO2. Now let's talk about the types of technologies, because that is a most important aspect here. Capture technologies. Now we said that there is burning of fossil fuel or combustion of fossil fuel. So accordingly, CO2 capture can happen at pre-combustion stage or post-combustion stage, as well as there is, let's say, new technologies that is called as, we can say, oxy-fuel technologies. So in general, we can categorize these technologies as post-combustion, which is, we can say, first. Second is pre-combustion, and third is oxy-fuel technologies. Let's understand what does it mean. Post-combustion. Now, whenever we see, let's say, we know about the power production. So there are thermal power plants, for example, the coal-fired thermal power plants. Now, when there is combustion of coal and the electricity is produced, there is an exhaust through chimney, and we call it as now flue gas. ठीक है, तो क्या होता है ये, इसको बोलेंगे हम flue gas, जो emit हो रहा है, बाहर जा रहा है. That flue gas will contain CO2 along with other gases also, right? Now, when that CO2 from the flue gas is captured here, that is called as post-combustion capture. Post-combustion capture, ठीक है, flue gas capture from out of power plants, steel plants, cement industry. All these have combustion activities, fossil fuel combustion activities, and there will be some flue gas coming out, and from that CO2 can be captured. So initially we thought of this technology. We worked on development of this technology, and at present there are several such technologies developed. We will talk about that also. Pre-combustion now. Now, why we are working on pre-combustion after that? Because post-combustion technologies have there some kind of limitations. What kind of limitations? Because the post-combustion capture is not that efficient, and somehow some amount of CO2 is getting added into the atmosphere, right? So instead of that, it was thought that before combustion itself, there should be reduction of CO2 content or carbon content that may released into the atmosphere. Like we know that coal is dirty fuel. Coal is a dirty fuel, and when it enters into the atmosphere, it is creating problem. After burning, CO2 है, उसके साथ साथ सल्फर के कई सारे impurities होते हैं उसके साथ में, then it is leading to emission of SO2. So coal-fired thermal power plants in India the major culprit for SO2, sulfur dioxide emissions, and dense smog that we observe during winter, especially in North Indian plains, Delhi NCR region, is because of this reason. So that's why pre-treatment of that coal, for example, coal gasification technology. Now, coal gasification technology will reduce all these problems and improve the efficiency. It will lead to formation of syngas or synthesis gas, जिसको हम बोलते हैं. Now, this will burn more efficiently. This will burn more efficiently and very less CO2 will be emitted into the atmosphere along with other removal of other impurities. ठीक है, तो इसको बोला गया है प्री कंबशन स्टेज. सो इट टॉक्स अबाउट और डील्स विद प्री ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ ऑल दोस फॉसिल फ्यूल्स बिफोर बर्निंग, बिफोर कंबशन प्रोसेस. अंडरस्टूड? नाउ दिस इज प्री कंबशन. नाउ व्हाट इज ऑक्सी-फ्यूल टेक्नोलॉजी? ऑक्सी-फ्यूल टेक्नोलॉजी, एज द नेम सजेस्ट, इट टॉक्स अबाउट बर्निंग द फ्यूल in 100% oxygen gas. So that means it is talking about not burning the fuel in directly air. Now air is having all types of gases including oxygen and nitrogen majorly. So nitrogen is also reacting in that burning process forming nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide, जिसको हम NOx बोलते हैं, and that is creating problem in terms of pollution. Now, when it is burned purely in oxygen gas, the outcome will be only CO2 and water. The reaction, outcome of reaction will be CO2 and water combustion, pure combustion जिसको हम बोलते हैं. Now here, the CO2 concentration in that water will be very high and most of the CO2 can be easily captured now. So, whenever we have more CO2 concentration, be it in the flue gas or that let's say water here, more concentrated amount of CO2 can be economically captured by these technology. ठीक है, तो concentration ज्यादा हो कम एयर में तो वो ज्यादा हम efficiently हम कैप्चर इकोनॉमिकली कैप्चर कर सकते हैं. So at present commercially proven technologies are in these two, while these are at nascent stage. Oxy-fuel technologies are at nascent stage. Now, within first two, if we talk about, especially first one, there are various, let's say, technologies. Let me tell you the names of these technologies like physical and chemical solvent based CO2 capture technologies, chemical solvent based CO2 capture technologies, then adsorption based CO2 capture technologies. Fourth one we can say cryogenic CO2 capture. ठीक है, cryogenic CO2 capture. So these are four such techniques or technologies, areas post combustion especially. ठीक है, post combustion. Now we know about the solvent technique, physical or chemical solvent. So what they are doing here, certain kinds of solvents are used to specifically dissolve CO2 from that flue gas. ठीक है, तो ऐसे सॉल्वेंट यूज किए जाते हैं जिससे सिर्फ CO2 एब्जॉर्ब कर ले वो वहां से, मतलब वहां का CO2 जो है वो सॉल्वेंट में ऐड हो जाए, बाकी गैसेस नहीं होने चाहिए, बिकॉज वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन CO2 कैप्चर. Okay, so such kind of solvents are used in first two techniques and they are efficient in we can say low concentration, low to moderate concentration, we can say areas, for example power plant flue gas is there, steel plant flue gas is there, तो वहां के लिए ये काफी ज्यादा बेनिफिशियल है. Now adsorption, we know adsorption, ठीक है, क्या होता है, when two bodies having different characteristics, they are attracting each other basically, the chemical property of two substances we can say, magnetic वाला नहीं है ये, gravitational नहीं, ठीक है. तो adsorption, so there are several industrial applications of adsorbents जिसको हम बोलते हैं, and one of them is this one now, ठीक है. And thereafter cryogenic means sub-zero temperatures, like it is up to 160 minus 160 degree temperature is there, तो वहां पर cryogenic CO2 capture will be there, ठीक है. So basically it is going to have the CO2 made into solidified form, right? So such kind of technologies are being developed here. Again, we need not to know in detail about these technologies for our examination, okay. So we have added one link in our ED sources में, आप देख सकते हैं, there was one very good report by नीति आयोग in 2022. If you simply type in Google carbon capture and storage नीति आयोग, the first link they will give you of this report, and this is the latest report suggesting a very good institutional mechanism and financing mechanism for this particular area that is having potential in future, ठीक है. So we have added some important points from that PDF in our booklet, ठीक है. आपको जो ED booklet दिया गया है उसमें हमने कुछ चीजें ऐड की हुई है, but if you want to know further about these technologies, काफी डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन किया हुआ है उन्होंने, so you can go through those PDF. Again UNEP का एक काफी अच्छा, IPCC and UNEP का काफी अच्छा एक PDF है. If you type carbon capture and storage and in front of that UNEP type करिए आप, United Nations Environment Program, and you will get that PDF also. Okay, so try to refer such PDFs actually. थोड़ा सा टाइम मिलता है तो आप just glance करिए. Why? Because they have very good flow charts and colorful diagrams and let's say data points regarding CO2 emissions, sources, sector wise emissions, बहुत सारी चीजें होती है उसमें, ठीक है. Now next point here is related to, we can say after learning about these technologies, what we have in our agenda, ठीक है, advantages of course. So we'll learn more about advantages here, benefits or advantages. The most important advantage is that it deals with climate change, right? It seeks to reduce the pace of climate change that is happening at present, global warming. So simply it will help to reach the objectives that we have set in the Paris Agreement, ठीक है. तो climate action हम बोल सकते हैं. Second is that at present if we are not focusing on CCUS, then we will be focusing on only renewable energy and transition to clean energy and all these things. Now this will help us to integrate with existing methods or technologies, be it for power production or industries. So it does not require to replace the coal-fired power plant completely with any renewable energy plant. Rather, it will try to increase the efficiency and reduce the pollution from these power plants. Okay, so the developing countries like India cannot do away immediately or easily from these coal-fired thermal power plants. Okay, so we are worried about our energy security and our economic growth and all these things, and that's why such kind of technologies will help us to meet our NDCs, nationally determined contributions. ठीक है, to Paris Agreement, because we are working on reducing CO2 emissions. Ultimately, that is the target. Then the third aspect we can talk about here is utilization. So I was talking about the utilization. Simultaneously, we can mention some points here about the utilization, because simply we are not capturing it and storing somewhere. We can utilize the captured CO2 also. For example, we can focus on manufacturing green urea. Okay, at present urea is the leading consumer of natural gas in the country. Okay, fertilizer production. Now, how we can reduce that? By use of this CO2 plus green hydrogen, and we can say renewable energy based electrolysis of water. Some of the reactions that will be there in manufacturing of green urea. So you can give such examples in terms of applications. Now, common examples we know about food and beverages industry, like carbonated drinks, ठंडा मतलब कोको कोला, कार्बोनेटेड ड्रिंक्स है ना, सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक्स जो होता है वो, या फिर nowadays people are also eating the dry ice. You must have come across that video. गुड़गांव में जो हुआ था, unfortunate incident. But that is CO2 and that is having industrial applications. Dry ice is very good coolant, right? आपके घर पे अगर आप रात को आपके आइसक्रीम खाने का इच्छा होता है, ठीक है, आइसक्रीम खाने के लिए आपने जोमेटो पे ऑर्डर कर दिया या फिर बिग बास्केट पे ऑर्डर कर लिया, ठीक है, और जो डिलीवरी बॉय लेके आता है उसका कंटेनर कभी देखिएगा, उसके कंटेनर में नीचे के साइड में और साइड वाले में वो ड्राई आइस रखा हुआ रहता है. इट कीप्स दैट पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट इन अ कांस्टेंट टेम्परेचर, ठीक है, तो वो क्या हो गया आपका वेरी गुड कूलेंट. सो यू कैन यूज दैट इन, वी कैन से, फूड एंड बेवरेजेस इंडस्ट्री. देन नेक्स्ट इज very good application in building materials. See, there can be question in prelims examination. Applications of captured CO2. They are asking such kind of biochar के applications क्या है, या फिर अगर हम देखते हैं कि क्या क्वेश्चन था वो, हाँ, वो ऐश वाला जो कोल के रिमेनिंग कोल बर्निंग के बाद जो ऐश रहता है आपका, ठीक है, तो वो वाला ऐश के एप्लीकेशंस भी जो है वो पूछ रहे हैं, राइट. बिल्डिंग मटेरियल्स लाइक वी कैन से कंक्रीट इज देयर, एग्रीगेटर्स, इट कैन बी यूज्ड इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ दिस फ्लाई ऐश, पार्डन मी, ठीक है, फ्लाई ऐश के एप्लीकेशंस जो होते हैं उसमें भी वो पूछा गया था प्रीलिम्स में. देन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ केमिकल्स लाइक मिथेनॉल, इथेनॉल, एंड दे हैव सेवरल इंडस्ट्रियल एप्लीकेशंस, मिथेनॉल एंड इथेनॉल, ठीक है. सो देयर आफ्टर अदर एप्लीकेशंस लाइक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ पॉलीमर्स, manufacturing of polymers, bioplastics. See, these are industrially proven applications. ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब अभी तक potential applications है, right? Then enhance oil recovery. This is potential, we can say, in India. Enhance oil recovery. Okay, so These are some applications in terms of utilization. Advantages में कुछ ऐसी चीजें आप बोल सकते हैं. Thereafter we can talk about is of course the other aspects are also there. अगर हम climate change और वो सब चीजें डिटेल में अगर देखते हैं, so reduced level of, we can say, एक्सट्रीम इवेंट्स. ठीक है, ये सब चीजें एक्सटर्नैलिटीज या बाद में हम जनरल चीजें बहुत सारी ऐड कर सकते हैं उसके एप्लीकेशंस के लिए. ठीक है, एडवांटेजेस के लिए, पार्डन में. नाउ आफ्टर अंडरस्टैंडिंग द एडवांटेजेस, व्हाट वी कैन फोकस इज द स्टेटस इन इंडिया. ठीक है, स्टेटस इन इंडिया. नाउ सम फैक्ट्स यू शुड नो about India. India is the third largest emitter of CO2 in the world after China and USA. After China and USA. Then if we talk about the industry-wise emissions, the power sector alone contributes 1/3 of total emissions. Then industries about 30%, agriculture about 20%, vehicular 10%. vehicular 10%. ट्रांसपोर्ट जिसको हम बोलते हैं, ठीक है, व्हीकलर ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर, CO2 emissions. Then along with that we have our updated NDCs to Paris Agreement. What are these? Nationally determined contributions, and we have committed under this that to reduce CO2 emissions by 50% by 2030. Along with that we have committed that we will become net zero emission country, net zero emission target by 2070. Some facts. Mains examination में data, facts, examples are very very important, especially subjects of GS, जनरल स्टडीज. ठीक है, तो आपको हर एक आंसर में क्वालिटी 3-4 फैक्ट्स, एग्जांपल्स लिखना मस्ट है आज के टाइम पे. एवरीवन इज राइटिंग. ओके, इफ यू आर नॉट राइटिंग यू आर आउट ऑफ रेस, बट इट शुड नॉट बी लाइक मैकेनिकल एक्टिविटी, रोबोटिक एक्टिविटी. यस, the data and facts and examples should be relevant to the argument and analysis that you are putting in that particular part of your answer. Otherwise पॉइंट लिख दिया, उसके सामने एग्जाम्पल लिख दिया, पॉइंट लिख दिया, एग्जाम्पल. आजकल के स्टूडेंट ऐसे कर रहे हैं. दिस इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड, डेलिबरेट लगता है ऐसे. ओके, सो फोकस ऑन लेट्स से रिलेवेंट फैक्ट्स. नाउ पोटेंशियल areas, storage areas, we can say in India. For example, first, enhanced oil recovery. What is this enhanced oil recovery? Any idea? When we inject the captured CO2 into the oil well, what will happen there? The oil will be, we can say that, more carbon rich. Oil is a hydrocarbon, right? And we need more carbon rich hydrocarbons. and that's why there will be enhanced oil recovery from the oil wells when the CO2 is injected. Same is for coal bed methane. Or simply we can say that when the coal seams, they are, let's say, unused at present, the CO2 can be injected in those coal seams at high pressure, and there will be coal bed methane formations which will be more recoverable in future. ठीक है, तो ये दो प्रोमिनेंट एप्लीकेशन एरियाज है, स्टोरेज एरियाज जिसको पोटेंशियल हम बोल सकते हैं. देन अदर स्टोरेज can be saline aquifers. Why we are saying saline aquifers? Because they are not useful for human consumption. ज़्यादा salinity वाले जो होते हैं aquifers, so they are not useful for human consumption, suitable for human consumption. Then basalt formations. See, basalt formations can be there on the land as well as on the ocean bed. If you see the mid-oceanic region, basalt formations are there. Basaltic magma is coming up there, right? And same is case for land. If you take the example of Deccan Traps, basalt formations are there. Now these basalt formations can absorb this injected CO2 in itself and store it for long period of time. This is the property of these rocks, basalt rocks. And this is being explored in future for geological sequestration, right? Carbon sequestration we learn, and in that carbon sequestration we have geological sequestrations on land, and there is ocean sequestration also. That means we are talking about the oceans. These are some prominent areas we can say in India where we can store that captured CO2. ठीक है, so thereafter we can talk about is challenges, and we can categorize these challenges into three. Technical, financial, safety. So technical means the sophisticated level of technological demonstrations are yet to happen in India especially. At the same time, there can be some kind of error in the technology, and that's why the commercially viable technologies have not been there, especially outside the developed countries. ठीक है, तो technical challenges are there. Developing and underdeveloped countries, they don't have access to these technologies. Financial, these technologies are at present very high cost, and that's why industries find it difficult to apply in their own applications in those respective sectors. So financial challenges, burden is of course there. Along with that, safety aspect. So all these technologies, including the storage, deep geological storage or all this, so how it will react in future if suppose there is tremor, in that region, and suppose these rocks are becoming unstable. So whatever the geological storage of CO2 was there, that will immediately release in a concentrated form into the atmosphere. The same is case with, we can say, the aquifers. We don't know, because saline aquifers are connected as a part of hydrological cycle, no? ऐसा नहीं कि isolated है, कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. Of course, there can be one problem there. So safety related issues are always there, and these challenges are needed to overcome in future after more and more research in these areas. Now in India, Niti Aayog report suggests a policy framework this should be written in the answer. and what that policy framework emphasizes, it emphasizes on hub and cluster model. Hub and cluster model. Now what is this model? It proposes that whatever the CO2 capture technologies will be there, all these industries will have they use the common infrastructure for transport of captured CO2 to a particular destination, hub जिसको बोला गया है. Okay, there will be cluster of all these industries. There will be common infrastructure for transport of all this CO2, and thereafter there will be some industries in the nearby region to utilize that captured CO2, and the same infrastructure will also work on storage of CO2, safe storage of CO2. So it talks about integrating the CCUS infrastructure with the present industrial infrastructure. Understood? So this is the proposed structure. Along with that, it proposes one financing mechanism. We can say one body has been proposed here, and its name is Carbon Capture Finance Corporation of India. Carbon Capture Finance Corporation of India. Right. So it will focus more on, let's say, providing credit facilities for industries to adopt these technologies, CCUS technologies. ठीक है, तो this will, let's say, focus on this is the proposed body under this policy framework. We can say it is kind of institutional framework. Now along with that, as a part of way forward, ये एक part हो गया इंडिया के लिए way forward. Now there should be more and more let's say incentivization. Low carbon products, manufacturing of low carbon products. So it will reduce, we can say, overall demand of carbon itself. Low carbon products use होने चाहिए. There should be incentivization for manufacturing of low carbon products, and there should be funding of such innovations for low carbon product development. Right. Thereafter, continued research and development in CCUS technologies to reduce the cost, increase the safety and security, and we can say that increase the CO2 capture efficiency. है ना? The more efficiently it will capture, the better technology it will be. The better technology it will be. And finally, some example from India you can mention. And we have added some international examples, how different countries are working on promoting the CCUS. ठीक है, आपको ED booklet में वो मिल जाएगा. In India, Oil India Limited has recently started pilot project on carbon capture at its natural gas field in Rajasthan. This can be one such example you can give. It is the proposed body. It will be a public sector entity, of course. ठीक है, हर्षा. ठीक है, it is a proposed body under this framework, policy framework that has been, let's say, proposed in that document. So government can come up with that in future. It is just proposed by Niti Aayog in its report. It doesn't exist at present. ठीक है. Yes, carbon credit scheme can work here. You can mention that also. So credit mechanism can be developed. So the people who are capturing, the industries or let's say companies which are capturing CO2 efficiently and storing, they can be provided credit and they can be provided, we can say, subsequently finance. So they can there can be market linked credit mechanism. जैसे हमारा कार्बन क्रेडिट्स का है, in the same manner it can be for carbon capture, because that is all again we can say same aspect here. Fine, understood all this CCUS. क्वेश्चन आएगा तो इसी कंटेंट के अराउंड आएगा, ठीक है. So you can make a short note, 1 page note on this and revise for mains examination. ठीक है, any question? All right, let us stop then. Fine. एक मिनट रुको. Hub and cluster model. Just now I told you, hub and cluster model is basically a proposed model under this policy framework by Niti Aayog. What it talks about is, it is trying to integrate the CCUS infrastructure with the existing industrial infrastructure. That means whatever the carbon capture, transport, storage and utilization, ठीक है, तो ये सारे एक्टिविटीज एग्जिस्टिंग इंडस्ट्रियल हब्स के साथ इंटीग्रेट करना, उसको हब एंड क्लस्टर मॉडल बोला गया है. ठीक है, फाइन. ओके, फाइन. नाउ लेट अस स्टॉप देन. ओके.